Hello, I'm Vivian McGrath from vivianmcgrath.com, and today I'm going to be talking about breakup guilt. Anxiety after a breakup. When you know in your heart that you need to break up a relationship, or you have broken up in a relationship, but your heart is pulling you back and really just flooding you with guilt over the breakup of that relationship. Do any of you feel that way? I've been talking about this with one of my clients this week, and I hear this a lot, especially from people who have been in relationships that are dysfunctional, possibly even abusive relationships. Well, relationships that they know are just not good for them. So their heart just tells them that. And even so, their head tells them, even so their head says that, they just can't shake this guilt. And it's really complex guilt. It's guilt over the fact that I failed. I failed to fix that relationship. I failed. I did everything I could, but nothing fixed that relationship. It's guilt over I couldn't rescue my partner. And often, in relationships like this, the emotionally abusive or dysfunctional partner has deep wounds and difficult childhood and past relationships, or whatever they've told you is the cause of their insecurity and such. And you see them, and you feel that if I just could love them enough, then I could be enough for both of us. I could rescue them and show them that they're worthy of love. I can love them more than anyone has loved them ever before. It's guilt over the fact that you've failed to get closure, that or that you've failed your children because your kid didn't keep the family together. It's lots and lots and lots of deep-seated anxieties about leaving that relationship. But it goes even deeper than that, because often when we're in these dysfunctional relationships, we're spending our life trying to fix them, rescue them, save the relationship. We end up, often we are so full of empathy and care for other people's needs that we put theirs at the expense of our own. So in a way, what happens is we take on more of the responsibility of that relationship than we should. We become their mother. We become their therapist. We become their shoulder to cry on, and that's not what a relationship should be about. And then what happens is also you, by taking on that role and them manipulating you into that role as well, to take the blame for what goes wrong in a relationship, is then they have also set you up that when they say, I'm going to go and get help and change, well, they're just saying that to get you back, usually. And when they get back with you, and if you believe them and do run back, that will all go out the window, and you'll get blamed for that. Because if you're taking on the role of the therapist, well, when that therapy and I'm going to go and get help doesn't work, well, then it's your fault. You just can't win. You can't win. So this sort of guilt is tied up partly with the role that you've been playing. And it's really important to look at, I always say that emotions and feelings are messengers to tell you what you need to learn about yourself. And feeling this guilt over a relationship is saying to you, I'm a failure for not making that relationship work. Why are you a failure? I would ask you. You're not responsible for another adult's moods and behavior or happiness. You are not responsible for that. You are not their parent. They are an adult. You are not their therapist. You are not responsible. Neither are you to blame. It's just convenient for them to put that responsibility onto you, because then they don't have to take action or be accountable for their behavior. There's also another sense that goes deeper, in that often when we go into dysfunctional relationships and want to be a rescuer and a fixer and a savior and deny all our own needs in favor of theirs, it's also an avoidance technique and a way to numb ourselves from seeing that actually it's us that needs rescuing and saving. Bear with me here. While I thought that my ex was needier and more damaged in a way than I even realized I wasn't having to face that, because I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with me, it's all him, and if I can fix him, then I'm going to be happy ever after. So what I was doing there was I was also depending my happiness on him and the outcome. And when I couldn't fix him or save him or our relationship, when I couldn't save the family of the father of my son and keep us together as a family, I then felt a huge sense of guilt, but really it was a sense of failure, that I'd failed. And because my happiness was so intrinsically dependent on that relationship, in a sense, the rescuing of that relationship was what my happiness depended on. So it's also really tied up with how much your self-worth and sense of self-esteem is tied up to that relationship and the rescue of it. And when you can't, you just feel this deep sense of shame and failure. And in a way, by going into a relationship with a very damaged, needy, emotionally unavailable person, from the beginning, you're setting yourself up to fail. So the next question to ask yourself, and I promise you, I'm not victim blaming here. I'm just saying that there's something, if we spend the rest of our lives just blaming the other person, well, then we're never going to grow and heal. So it's worth just looking at our role in dysfunctional relationships as well. And to take, yes, they're to blame if there's abuse involved and coercive control, of course. And you are a victim, yes. But also there is some things about us that we can take responsibility for. And that's, I found that quite liberating, because I realized I couldn't change him or save the relationship. But what was within my grasp was I could change me. And that was really easy. It was far less exhausting. And it was also possible, So I realized that I went into a relationship like that because if he was somebody that's more damaged, needy, and I could control in a way, and I know it's going to sound hard to hear those words, but sometimes, these abusive relationships, that it is a balance of power and a battle for control and power. And when you're in the role of being the savior, the fixer, and they need you, you feel great about yourself. You feel needed and wanted and loved. But that starts to make them feel insecure, and so then they have to rise up and gain control over you. And then they need to push you down, suppress you, and become abusive. And then they see you as weak again, and they derive strength and power from that weakness in you. So the seesaw swings and swings and swings. But so subconsciously in my head, I thought, if I am with someone who's needy and damaged, and I can show them what love really is, and salve their inner wounds in their child, and help them to improve their self-esteem and all that, well, then they're going to need me so much they're never going to leave me. And you know what? Why that feels good? Because deep down I had a fear of abandonment. I was terrified of being abandoned. So why not pick a guy who's unavailable to me, who's not going to abandon me because he needs me so much to be his fixer, rescuer, mother and therapist. But that's not the path to a lasting happiness. So if you untangle all this and ask yourself, what is this need for, what is this feeling of guilt stirring in me? Well, it's a sense that I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable enough. He didn't love me enough to change for me. But you know what? If in abusive relationships or dysfunctional relationships, they might not ever be able to change. Love it no matter how much you love them, because they're like an empty bucket with holes in them. They're depending on you, leaning on you to make them happy and fulfill all their needs. And you can't, you never will. The more you do, the more you try and prove, the water will just keep draining out of those holes. And if you do the same, look to that relationship to avoid being still within yourself and facing the uncomfortable truth, which is that deep down you just might not feel good enough or worthy enough or lovable enough to have a relationship with someone who's fully emotionally available to you. And your fear of abandonment might find that type of relationship quite frightening. It did for me when I met my husband, who I'm with now. I was terrified. I pushed him away. I couldn't cope with that emotional availability and revealing my vulnerability, because I thought, oh, what if he sees the real me that's unlovable, unworthy, and self-loathing? He'll run a mile and I will be abandoned, and that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm going to push you away first before you break up with me and hurt me. I hope this is making sense. It's a really complex lot of emotions and feelings that get bundled up in this word guilt, feeling guilty for leaving that person. And the other thing is that desperate need for closure as well is really, really difficult. You get pulled back because you just want this closure, and you want them to admit you are lovable, you are worthy. Everything you did for me was trying to help me and in my best interest. I know that. But why do you need that? Because you're looking to outside sources to validate you and give you approval. And you're like an empty bucket with holes. No matter how, even if they did suddenly turn around and say that, usually it's empty words, but you probably won't believe them. It's you need to find that happiness and sense of security within you. It is the most important thing. I've done videos on why self-esteem, self-worth, and self-acceptance are so important. I've done a separate video on closure in relationships, so I'll post these as well below. But yeah, the bottom line is, you haven't failed. You have nothing to blame for or feel guilty about. Sometimes you just have to accept that you can't fix a person or relationship. And if they're not willing to put the years of hard work into it, well then, are they good enough for you anyway? Are you projecting onto them? Are you living your life? Are you stopping yourself from moving forward and moving on with your life because you're clinging on to the hope that one day they're going to mean it when they say, I'm going to change? Well, if that's the case, I'd ask yourself this. what does unconditional love mean? It means loving somebody for exactly who they are right now. Do you love them and like them just the way they are, if they never change? Are you happy to be in that relationship if they never, ever change? That's the one question I would ask. I would ask, will you accept them for who they are and one day look back on the relationship without regret? You know, because if you're wasting your life waiting and hoping for the one day this person might come, that's not them right now, but can be them if they just see that my love can fix them and change them and blah, blah, blah. Well, A, that's conditional love that you're putting onto them. And B, you're clinging onto a fantasy that might never, ever, ever, ever happen. And the second thing is, don't waste time. Life's so short and precious. Don't waste it hoping for closure you might never get. You know, dysfunctional relationships, abusive relationships, they're not normal, healthy relationships. You're not going to get to dissect it in a healthy way and for them to say, yes, you were right about X, Y, and Z, but you were this, and have a rational conversation. You know that deep down. So what does your gut tell you? Is this relationship good enough for you or not? If it's not, and you've made that decision to leave already, then let go of that guilt. It's a self-limiting belief, and you have no reason for it. Replace it with the positive affirmations and belief that you are worthy. You are good enough. You're more than good enough to deserve a healthy, loving, lasting relationship, a companionship that enriches you and enhances your life till you grow into your old age, which is what I've got now. Well, okay, not old age yet. Middle-aged, thank you. But that's what I've got, you know? And if I'd clung on to that fantasy, and if I had not let go of that deep guilt that I felt, that I failed for not fixing that relationship, I would miss out on the incredible opportunities, relationship and life that I have now. So I hope that makes sense and that's helpful to you. If you would like to work with me in more depth, then I would be really honored to work with you and be part of your journey to healing and growth and becoming the most incredible you can possibly be. So you can find me at vivianmcgrath.com/work with me, or there'll be, you know, I do these videos regularly, so there's plenty of more of videos to find on here. So if you did like that, please click the like button. If you're on YouTube, ring the bell so that my videos do keep coming to your inbox. Subscribe and share. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.